Come on, 2, 3.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, February 7th, 2022. And our top story today, relocation is still on the mind for many. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Scott R. Fuller is a relocation expert and founder of Leaving the Bay Area and leavingsocal.com. Scott, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us again on the program this morning.
Jeff, I appreciate you having me back. Good to see you again.
It is great to see you. And look, I figured you're the relocation expert, and we're into a new year. And we've talked a lot on this program over recent weeks about real estate. Wanted to check in on relocation. First, Scott, let's talk about relocation activity. Is it as heightened as it was maybe during the beginning or middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, it is. We really haven't seen much change. Some of our clients have decided to put off moving until COVID is completely gone, which, they're not sure when that's going to be, obviously. So that's kind of a moving target. But it hasn't slowed down. A lot more people are still kind of entwined in the, can I work remotely? And if I can, a lot of companies still haven't determined if they're going to bring everybody back, what that's going to look like. So there's still a lot of people out there who are looking at their options, still asking their company, can I work remotely permanently? Or maybe just be able to come back in once a month. And so, we're continuing to see that trend for people who have corporate positions.
Yeah. So let's talk about the areas, the geographic areas. And I know you're in Arizona. That's a hot spot. But people not only leaving the Bay Area, because you're assisting people nationally as well. Where are people interested in going?
Just a lot of it depends on kind of where you're coming from. The Northeast, obviously, a lot of people are moving down into the Florida area, Georgia, the Carolinas. So we're seeing a lot of that. From the Northwest, we've got a lot of people. The California is feeding typically into the Phoenix area, Las Vegas area. As I should say, Southern California, mostly feeding into Phoenix, Las Vegas, also into Dallas. Northern California, San Francisco, a lot of people going into Sacramento, to be able to kind of stay just about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from being in San Francisco, but being able to be out of the city. The Northwest, Seattle, those areas, also coming into Phoenix and some areas of Idaho. So we're certainly continuing to see the people moving out of the coasts, which tend to be the more expensive areas, that are moving into areas that are still less expensive, but quickly becoming more pricey as these shifts take place.
I got to tell you, the coasts, so beautiful, and all those cities you described, those areas, beautiful as well. And I would imagine it's kind of hard to give that up. When you talk about the ages or the maturity of the individuals that are typically moving, is it a wide dispersion? Is it young? Young? By young, I mean above 18, or is it mature?
Traditionally, we've seen it people who are at or near retirement age who are saying, we've built up a good amount of equity, especially if they live in one of these, high cost of housing areas, and realizing that our nest egg is not going to go as far if we stay here. So we need to get to an area that's going to have lower taxes, lower costs of living, and maybe something that's going to be a better fit for our lifestyle. So we've seen that, over the past 6 or 7 years. That's been really nothing new. What we've seen change quite a bit is the working families and individuals who are making a good income. You could have a husband and wife in San Francisco or LA making $250,000, $300,000 combined income, and they're scraping to get by. So you can bet that they're going to jump at the opportunity to be able to get to a lower cost of living area, lower cost of housing, lower taxes, just everything that you purchase in general. So that's where we're seeing the most movement on, and that's where we're still seeing people, really push, their bosses in the HR department hey, if we're reducing our footprint for the office by 50%, can I be one of those people, can take advantage of it and work remotely? So that's where we've seen more of the people have an interest and really pushing, to be able to have more flexibility in working remotely.
Scott, last question for this segment. Are you seeing these destinations of choice you mentioned? I think Idaho, Arizona, Florida, Georgia, I think was one of them. Are you seeing those communities being more accommodative to these geographic shifts? Meaning, are they building up infrastructure, schooling, healthcare, which we'll talk about all these things in the second segment. But are they being more receptive and saying, hey, come on over, come to us, we want you here?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, there's probably two answers to that question. It's interesting because Arizona's governor, Doug Ducey, just put out a press release a couple of days ago and said, essentially, we'd love to have you here. Everybody from California, Oregon, Washington, we'd love to have you here, but please understand the reasons you came here. And let's keep, the quality of life the same that it is. And I think, people probably know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
As far as the infrastructure is concerned, most places have anticipated, maybe not as quickly as it has taken place, but they've anticipated this type of growth. So most of the areas have, looked at what are going to be the water requirements for new subdivisions for builders. What are we going to need to have as far as transportation, whether it's public transportation or, increased access to freeways, things like that. So I think a lot of them have thought ahead about that. It's certainly happening quicker than they probably anticipated. And in most of these areas, there's still new construction taking place, but builders can't build quick enough for the demand that's coming in, whether it's local demand for housing or people coming in from out of area, demand for housing. So that's a struggle in almost every market right now. And that's why we've seen in a lot of these areas we're talking about, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Dallas, we've seen price increases, of $150,000 to $200,000 in the last 18 months, maybe 24 months. It's significant. Wow.
Yeah, that's an understatement. That is significant. Scott, I need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to Scott about if you're choosing to relocate, what you need to think about before you make that move and what kind of planning you need to do. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Scott R. Fuller, the founder of Leaving SoCal and LeavingTheBayArea.com. Scott, thanks so much for sticking with us this morning.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the plural is. You know, when they say stadium, it's not stadiums, it's stadia, but I'm not sure what the plural is when I name. Anyway, that's a whole nother issue.
That's for another segment. We'll have to.
I'm going to have to get an English teacher, I think, on, and by George, they're going to really run me ragged. Okay, Scott, let's talk about those individuals that are thinking about relocating. And, you know, they've been looking and looking and looking, and they decided now's the right time. Talk to us, the audience, about timing and what we need to think about before we jump in with both feet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everybody's going to have a reason why they're leaving where they're currently at. And so you have to understand, does it have to do with quality of life? Does it have to do with cost of living? Does it have to do with taxes? And everybody's going to have a different answer to that. So what I usually, when I'm having conversations with people, I recommend, you know, the things that you want to look at is your next destination. Is the cost of living and the cost of housing important to you? Is the tax status in that state important to you, whether it's state taxes, whether it's local taxes, property taxes, you know, all kinds of different taxes you can think of. Is that an important piece for you? Climate is really big, especially for people who are moving out of California, because technically they're probably going to be moving to an area maybe that doesn't have the climate advantage that a lot of other areas have. So for people, you know, the West Coast, that's certainly going to be, you know, a determining factor. Also look at lifestyle. What's important to you? What do you like to do? You know, outdoor activities, you know, people who have, you know, share common interests and things like that. And the other thing is, you know, the proximity of, if you have obligations for work, for family or friends in the area that you're leaving, do you need to stay close to where you're currently at? And when I say close, within maybe a 2-hour, you know, a plane ride to be able to get back. So when we look at those 5 or 6 factors, that's going to help. You're going to look at and prioritize those and what's most important to me. And at that point, then you can start really diving a little bit deeper into, you know, getting more granular, getting more information on the specific areas, and, you know, what that's going to look like and how that's going to impact your quality of life, and if that's going to give you what you're looking for.
Scott, a lot of people who work with you have the benefit of the resources that you have, but how do we determine what area, what's in an area? I mean, how do you go about, say I'm not working with you directly, how do I figure out if an area is right for me? As you know, my wife and I moved to Charlotte from the New York area, and we love it here. We did a lot of research. But for those out there just thinking about this, maybe they're kicking it around the table, the dinner table, if we even have dinner tables anymore, and they're thinking about, hey, you know, we should, honey, children, we should move. Where do you do the research?
Yeah, I think, Jeff, a lot of the top level research, I mean, we're blessed to have the ability to have everything available at our fingertips online. Now, the benefit of that is we can get information quickly, but a lot of times we can get overloaded with information to the point to where we can't make a decision. And so it's really being able to look at some of the resources. I mean, there's some great resources out there, some of the major websites, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, to just kind of get a general idea of, you know, for this price point, the amount of money I want to spend on a house, is that reasonable to get what I'm looking for? So that can help you kind of look at from the housing standpoint. There's a lot of websites that have cost of living comparisons. And so you can compare, you know, 2 to 3 areas on what the average cost of living is going to be, you know, just regular goods and services. You can look at that. There's some great websites that will go through and rank, state taxes, and you can research, you know, even to the local level for property taxes, right? So what, you know, in this particular county, what am I going to anticipate my property tax rate is going to be? So all of that information is available, as well as being able to compare climate, you know, how much snow am I going to expect, or how much humidity, what's the average highs and lows in the summertime and in the wintertime to be able to compare those. So I think that you can do a good level or a good amount of high level research. And then when you get to the points where you've narrowed it down a little bit, then you can get a little bit granular. And I think at that point is where you want to talk to a local expert in the area to make sure the assumptions that you're making and the data that you've looked at is indeed correct, right?
Yeah, Scott. Last question. We're not going to get into mortgage rates and interest rates, but we've seen mortgage rates kind of creep up. And if you're new to an area, how do you find a lender? Do you need can you use a lender where you used to live to get a mortgage? Are the requirements, the income requirements, the capital requirements different from location to location? Are they different, for example, in Arizona than they are in California? I would think there's got to be some difference. There's probably not a standard protocol across the entire nation, but what about loan origination? How do you go through that process?
Yeah, so I mean, typically most lenders are going to originate, they're going to sell the loans off to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. So there's going to be general guidelines, but the amount of how high they'll go on the loan will be adjusted by the area that you're in and adjusted by state based off of the cost of housing and the cost of living. There's usually two, I would say, choices that you have when you're looking at, getting a mortgage put into place. One is you're going to go to a typical bank, right? Let's call it Wells Fargo, B of A, US Bank, one of those large banking institutions. They're going to have access to their own in-house product lines for mortgage loans, and they're going to be licensed in all 50 states. So if you have a relationship, you can certainly start there with an originator working for one of those banks in any state or the state where you came from, and they're going to be licensed to give you a loan in the state that you're moving to. One of the things that you're going to want to look at, though, is you want to keep in mind that they only have access to their own loan products. You want to be able to, look at all of the loan products that are available to you, which would be provided to you by a loan broker. Brokers are typically licensed by state, and most brokers are only licensed in the state that they actually, have their office in and where they can originate loans in. So in that case, let's say, for example, if I'm moving from New York to Charlotte, if I have a banking relationship, with a major bank, I can talk to them about what they can offer, but I can also go to a local broker, a loan broker in North Carolina, and find out what other products that they can offer, because usually the broker can offer not only the large banking products, but also a lot of other products that can give them, perhaps better rate, better terms based off of their credit score, based off of their income, debt to income ratio, down payment, different things like that. So you do definitely, I always recommend, talk to somebody who's local in the area that you're moving to, because they're going to understand the local laws and the local banking a little bit better than if you're trying to do it with somebody who's working from out of state.
Yeah, really, really important. Since this is all part of the planning. Scott, I felt like we just scratched the surface. There's so much to consider. I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program. And look, we're going to have you back in a few weeks to talk more about this. Take care. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it. You take care.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest? Someone you think we should talk to? Well, hey, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, check out our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to see our latest content or search our archives? Well, check out our website. That's www.broadcastretirementnetwork.com, and our streaming partners like Amazon, Roku, Samsung, and over 100 more. Well, we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired, come on.
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.